Welcome to Albany County Direct. I'm your host, County Executive Dan McCoy. In today's episode, we're joined by Amanda Thomas, Case Supervisor B, and Brianna Strock. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Department of Children, Youth, and Family. So I want to say thank you to the both of you for being here. So this is going to kind of enlighten people of the process that you go through, how they can go through that process, and why it's so important. And we can talk a little bit about last night too. But thank you both for being here. So before we get started, each of you tell us, the audience, a little bit about your background, what you do in your current roles in DCYF.
So I'm Amanda. I have been with DCYF for the past 17 years. In my current position, I supervise a team of 4 home finders who recruit, train, and certify Albany County foster parents. And we also work on finding placements for youth who are newly entering foster care or who need a new placement.
I'm Brianna. I'm an account clerk 1, and I've been here for about a year. I currently help out with billing as well as any other projects that need to be done in my unit.
Nice. So we're going to discuss the important role of DCYF assisting with foster care and adoption services. Last night we had the honor, and I think we're up to over 20 families this year who people are kind enough to open up their hearts and open up their homes and adopt these children, and what a difference it makes in their life, right? It gives them light at the end of the tunnel, gives them hope and opportunity, and really just to be with someone that cares and loves for them. And that's what I love about what I saw last night and what you go through. So if you want to kind of talk about that a little bit, what it means, the difference, or go through the process?
Absolutely. So we have DCYF staff who are available 24/7 to respond to hotlines of alleged abuse or neglect. If in the response to a CPS hotline, it's determined that a youth is in immediate or impending danger, a removal to foster care would have to be made. Albany County trains and certifies their own foster parents, so we work really hard with our foster parents to support them in taking our Albany County kids into their homes. There are federal guidelines that say how long a youth can be in care before we have to look at the adoption pathway. So if a youth has been in care for 15 of the most recent 22 months, at that point in time, we would look to the courts for a termination of parental rights. If a parent's parental rights are terminated at that point in time, the foster parents who have the youth in their care would be eligible to adopt that youth.
So, in Albany County, we believe every child deserves the opportunity to thrive and to know that they matter, because that's the most important thing too, right? Is that kids, they get the senses. They know when someone doesn't care about them. They know when they feel they're not wanted. And to have that in their relationship growing up makes the difference, right? It gives them a foundation for a better future. What part would you like to tell the listeners about the roles that you both play, but what they kind of expect if I wanted to go in and say, hey, I want to be a foster parent first, maybe then adoption, what would they have to go through?
So with foster care, our goal is always reunification. The vast majority of kiddos in Albany County are ultimately returned to their parents. In order to become a certified foster parent, it's 10 weeks of classes, 3 hours a night. We hold them usually 3 times a year right down at the Albany County building. And then it's a criminal background check, a child abuse history background check. We run you through the Justice Center, and a myriad of home studies and visits that you'll have to do with my home finding team.
So it's quite the process. I don't want to scare the listeners, but this is to protect the kids, right? Because that's the most important thing. When they're getting out of a bad situation, if they're being placed in foster care for whatever the reason may be, we obviously want to make sure they're not walking into another situation they just left. Unfortunately, I always get, people hear the horror stories about, being a foster parent or adoption. And, you see that, and look, I like to sit here and say, hey, we're perfect. Nothing falls through the cracks. It happens. Unfortunately, it does. We try to do our best. I want to thank the family court judges because they're really passionate. It's hard to sit on that bench. there's times we couldn't fill a vacancy. No one wanted that job because it's heart-wrenching. You're dealing with hard situations, and, you say it's easy to make a decision from the bench. I'd have to say no, because your heart does get there, right? And you do get emotionally attached like you do working. What would you want the listeners to understand about your role? Like, if you're someone's coming in there, what do you face with every day that you sit there and you're like, okay, if they only understood what we have to go through, or what you'd like to tell somebody a little story about your department?
I think our caseworkers are here because they genuinely love what they're doing, and they love the kids and the families that they're working with. Nobody wants to see a kiddo enter foster care. That is the last thing we ever want to do. And our staff works so hard to keep kiddos out of care. We're providing services to the families. We're finding other family members who can come in and assist with supervision or support these families to keep these kids in the home.
Brianna? That's her. No, listen. And you know what? I really shouldn't put you on the spot because you've been here 12 months. But I think it's great when you have someone from the outside come in to a new department. Maybe this is your first job, first experience, but basically to look at things differently and not be afraid to, in a respectful way, to say, hey, I don't really think that works. Maybe we should try this.
Yeah, I don't really know much about the process behind it. I can give you my opinions, but...
Yeah. No, and listen, I think it's important to listen to everyone, especially, pre-COVID, I walked around a lot of departments. I really tried to get out every 2 to 3 years and just walk through. Now, some of the commissioners weren't happy, and deputy commissioners, because they're like, what are you doing here? Why didn't you tell us? Because I just want to see the workers, I just want to say, hello, hey, we're here. Not that I have time to understand. I'm in the trenches every day in your office to understand what you're doing, what you're going through. But there's certain departments that I have come attached in the last 15 years that I know what you do every day, and I know how hard it is to do your job and to be out there in the community. I see it on your faces. I see it in your eyes, and it's not easy when you deal with children, right? I think there was my second year in office. We had a lot of the women that all of them seemed to be pregnant in the same year, and there's like 12 or 15 of them. Maybe it was less, but it was a big number where we're like, what are we going to do this summer when they all go out?
Don't drink the water on the 3rd or 4th floor.
Yeah, right. And that's we did a partnership with Albany, and we got to have people come in, and we figured it out. And then some don't come back because what they deal with all day, and then when they have their own child, they're like, I can't do it. I can't do this. And I understand it. And I've talked to men and women that have left there. And there was a male I talked to a while ago, and we transferred him because he was like, I can't do this anymore. It becomes too much, right? It becomes a lot of emotions. But Brianna, I hope you don't mind. I know you grew up in foster care yourself. What part of the experience most shaped you through all that?
I didn't really know anything much about foster care when I was first entered into foster care, so it was a lot to learn. It was obviously easier for me because I only went to one home and I stayed there, and then after being there for a little over a year, I was adopted, which
that's awesome.
Yeah, makes it pretty easier for me. But I've also heard some horror stories from kids, and I've actually been volunteered in a few like experiment groups with teens. And even though my experience wasn't, obviously being in foster care isn't the best experience, but I'm grateful that I was luckier than a lot of other kids.
So is that what shaped you to get into the role that you are in currently? And I know you only been here a year, so I don't want to keep you out of the spot, but I think it's pretty cool that you decided to go into this work that that you went through, so you know firsthand. Mm-hmm. So even though some workers been there a while, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's not how it works, right?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth a little bit about like what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And then when my parents actually decided to re-up their certification, it kind of like solidified where I wanted to be. I don't know exactly where I want to go. I just know that I want to help kids, whether that's becoming a caseworker or just being a support.
See, I like that, and I really just love what you said, my parents, that you adopted. And I think that's such an important statement that you made. And like when I was looking at the parents last night, yeah, you are a parent now, right? Just because they're not your blood doesn't mean they're not they're your kid. And when you adopt someone, you give them unconditional love, and you raise that child, and they are your children. And I'm glad you just said that, because it's like I think some people kind of like, well, is it really going to be my child? Yes, because you're going to raise that kid like it's your own, and you're going to be there for the good times, the bad times, when they fall down, to pick them up, to redirect them. And parents don't always get it right, because I wasn't. I like to tell you, I was a perfect parent. I'm a perfect grandfather, right? Thank goodness my family doesn't listen to this, because they would be like, yeah, okay. We all make mistakes. But if a listener takes anything from this, and you always wanted your own child, and whatever course of life you didn't get there, and you can make a difference. And, look at, I know everyone wants newborn children, and I get it, they want infants. There's so many kids out there that are just in different ages, and every age is different, right? It's unique. I will say that foster people out there, don't adopt any kids over 20, because once you get over 20, they're a pain.
Hey, I'm 22. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll leave it at that. But I think every stage, the walk of the life was different, right? And painful and good, and memories. And I really think that, you should, if you can do this, you should do this. And you're a prime example. And I love the fact that, I'm sorry you went through that system, but you found to be in the right place where you're supposed to be. And it has given you the foundation that you're sitting here today, and regardless whether you stay in Albany County, which I hope you do, or move on, it's going to give you a different experience, because, being in the military, not to equate the two, when you get a veterans person you're working with that didn't go to combat versus somebody that did, you look at them differently. You're like, you don't understand what I went through. You don't get it. And you literally can talk to people that are thinking about on that borderline of saying, hey, I don't know if I want to adopt. And hey, look, here's my situation. This is what we went through. And, I was talking to some people recently about this, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I hear this and that. I'm like, okay, I have 3 kids, and it has not been perfect, okay? There's times I wish I could return them, right? They're just, that's what happens in life, right? And that's the journey of life, and that's what it's about. And I would say, if anyone takes anything away from this, I hope they open up their homes for foster care or adoption, because foster care is so important too. Because unfortunately, there's a journey, or the parents in certain situations had a hiccup, and they might not lose custody for a couple months or a month, and just to give that child stability. To wait for the parents to get their act together, and then come back and do it, and you see a lot of that. So it's I do want to say thank you. I know it's not easy to share someone's story, but I appreciate you allowing us to do this, because not too many people would. So thank you for that. So, if what would you say to someone who's considering becoming a foster parent?
Call us. I have 4 amazing staff who are happy to answer any and all questions that you might have. We understand that it's scary, and we understand that it's a journey. And like you said, with the parenting piece, even parenting your own birth kids, your bio kids, it's hard. The perk of foster care is you're going to get a team who's going to follow that kid. You'll have a home finder. You're going to have a caseworker. We'll support you. We'll help you navigate those services. We'll be there to answer any and all questions that you have. We have a nurse on staff that you can call 24/7. We had a foster parent who called because he didn't know the bathtub temperature. So he called the nurse. We're happy to answer your questions. We're happy to support anybody and everybody through this process.
And I think that's awesome that you pointed that out, because, one of the things you see with new parents, even so, you go from Tylenol to Motrin. Oh, you got a temperature, put them in a warm bath, put water down their back, a washcloth. When you're a new parent, you don't know any of this stuff, and you do, and it's great that you have someone to reach out to. Do you call and say, hey, how do I handle this situation? And I think that's great. Whether they utilize it or not, to know that they have that resource says a lot. So I know I got ahead of myself, like I always do, so I should just always stick to my notes, and everyone just shakes their head at me because they know I'm all over the place sometimes. Last night's ceremony was so nice, right? What does that mean to the children and families?
It's permanency. It's knowing that when they wake up tomorrow morning, they're going to wake up in that same bed. for the rest of the year. Like it's consistency, it's stability for these kids, and it's consistency and stability for these parents. There's no more court appearances. There's no more caseworkers knocking on their door. Hey, I'm here for the monthly home visit. You are these kiddos' parents now. Your name is officially on these kiddos' birth certificate. You are mom and dad forever. And it's one of my favoriteest days of the year.
And it's, when I got done talking, that one little girl kept interrupting me last night, which I thought was so cute. She's like, just shut up and move on, right? And but it was so cute. And then I went to the side and I'm talking to the little boy, and I'm talking to his adopted father, and then I got talking to someone else, and it was a sister of his who she independently adopted separately, and then the third sibling was adopted separately, I believe, right?
Two are together. One is in a separate home. Yep.
So I met the other mother, and they live within 6 miles of each other. They said they get together, they try to go away on vacations together, and I think it's so cool. They're trying to keep the nucleus of the family together, so they have that upbringing, and the fact that they do that, it's just like that was touching to me. Do you hear that story on my way out last night? So. One of the things is like, how's the process now, right? That's one of the other question I get, because I know I have friends that have adopted overseas because they said it's easier to go overseas and to go through the adoption process versus here in our own country. Would you say it's changed for the better, or is it still like that tough thing to do?
It's hard. It is really hard, and it's hard because the goal is always to return to parent first. Like there's no guarantee ever when you take a kid out into your home that you're going to be able to adopt. And we recognize that you're going to have a kiddo come into your home. You're going to open your heart. You're going to fall in love. So we get that. But I also think our most successful foster parents are the ones who've been able to make those connections with birth families, so that even when the kiddos do go home, they still have visits with them. They still see them. We have an amazing foster parent who the kiddos are home with mom and dad now. She has them all come back in the summer to her house, and she throws their birthday parties at their house, so they have pool parties. She's auntie on the weekends, visiting, supporting the families. Like those are our most successful foster parents, are the ones who can partner with the birth parents even after reunification happens.
And I think that's great, because the one lady I was talking to last night, she said that, and let's clarify this. This isn't, you don't have to be married to adopt. It can be single parents. So you want to talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people don't realize that. They think they're going to be, nope, you can't adopt. You're a single person. You need 2 people in the household.
No, you can be a single person living in the home as long as like you have the capacity to care for a child. Call us. Yeah, there's no stipulations of what your home looks like.
And I think that's awesome, because I think a lot of people who are listening to this might not know that, think that they have to be married, or, listen, life's funny, right? It takes a different course. So not everyone wants to get married, but they want to have children, and they're like, what better way to do this? And, whether they're in the professional career or whatever career path they've chosen in life, if they have the means to take care of somebody and they want to open up their house and their heart, I think that's great. I have a couple friends that have adopted overseas, and, I was just like, why? Like, why not here? I had family that did the same thing. And unfortunately, I think we get too much red tape in government, and it's there for a reason, to protect a child, to make sure we're not putting them in a bad situation, which, I'd love to say it doesn't it's never happens, but it does, unfortunately, because you can't, other than you hook someone up to a lie detector and say, or give them truth serum and really get to, they fill out the application, do the background check, everything works up. You hope it's a win situation, right? But to see people talk about why they do what they do, it's like, I said that, I'm going to change this. It's like fighting City Hall, so to speak, right? I'm like, I'm going to change this. I'm going to make it easier. I want people to realize these kids are right here in our own community that need love, regardless if they're 3 months old or 10 years old or 15 years old. And I love going over to Parsons and hanging out there with the kids, because, they're there for behavior issues, other issues, or the parents, whatever it might be. And they just want someone to love them, man. And they just want someone to say, hey, I care about you, and I matter in this world, or St. Cat, or the place on New Scotland. It just, to me, it's just like, even if you can volunteer to help out at a place like that and make a difference in someone's life says a lot. Anything you want to leave our listeners with, especially those who might be wondering if there's a role for them in this work? Look at I wish people could see this. They're staring at each other. Who wants to go? Who wants to go?
We're always hiring. If you want to become a caseworker, call us. I started this job fresh out of college, and I've never looked back. You will never, ever be bored. And you're going to meet some amazing kids and families along the way who will stick with you. And even if you don't want to become a caseworker, but you want to support us, like, we're always looking for new ways to recruit foster parents and get the word out there that we need foster parents. Or if you're like, maybe I want to be a foster parent, call us. I will convince you, or my people will convince you to become a foster parent. And also, we have amazing older kids in care. And I think that that's a missed opportunity for people. Everybody's focused on adopting babies. We have great older kids in care. And the best part about the older kids in care is they're in school. So you get a break during the day when they go to school. So, yeah.
I was going to say that, and I'm glad you put that out there. I'm like, a break. My kids used to text me with their phones. I'm like, aren't you in class right now? How are you texting me? So I think it's great that they got to lock their phones up now. So now you actually do get a break. But would you like to add anything?
Even if you weren't fully committed on becoming a foster parent, you could always be a respite. I think one time I had a respite for about a week, and it was during the summer, but I had a summer job, so I spent the week there after my job, and just being able to take a break from my parents and my parents being able to take a break from me was really nice, especially at the time because I was very much going through my teenage stages, but
I don't see that.
No, but Bree makes a great point about, like, the need for respite parents. We have foster parents, who have high needs kids, and sometimes they just need a break. So, yeah, if you can come in and support them for a weekend, take a kiddo for a weekend, take them while the foster parents have to go to Auntie's wedding in California.
Right, and even if you have kids and you still want to be a respite, my parents were a respite for a weekend for these little kids, and I spent the whole weekend just playing with them and just doing fun stuff, giving them new experiences.
That's awesome. And you do bring up a good point. You do have kids some are high needs, have different issues, medical care. So I've had people ask me too, like, well, do I got to pay for the medical care? Do I, will my insurance cover it? What would you say?
So any kiddo who's in foster care in New York State is automatically covered by New York State Medicaid. Daycare is also reimbursed. So if you work and kiddo's not old enough to be in school, daycare is reimbursed. There is some overhead costs associated with caring for children in care. We look at you as, second mom and dad,
Right.
but no medical insurance and no daycare costs.
Which I think is huge, right? Because the people, that worries a lot of people in today's world. Like, insurance is going through the roof. Everything's expensive. If you have someone with special needs and then you're like, well, how do I afford it? Because, you feel bad for parents that have to try to figure that out navigate in this world that we're in today. And you want to give them everything, but you got to pay your bills too, right? So I think it's important. And as I have said to people, I go, no, that's covered. Even if you do adopt a child, it's covered. Any pre-existing conditions that walk in, you decide to take on and give that kid love, that you're going to be okay. They're going to be there with Medicaid. The state's going to be there with you. It's tricky to navigate. I'm not going to say it's a perfect system because it's not. I wish it was, but I really want to bring it out. And before I end, do you two want to add anything? This is your chance.
I'd like to highlight that Brianna's foster parents and adoptive parents loved it so much that they came back. And they came back. They were agency foster parents the first time, and then they came back as Albany County foster parents.
Okay.
And they're on round 2, so we did not scare them away the first time. And I think they're living their best foster parents' life right now.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I definitely agree.
All right, as long as you agree. I'm just making sure. So, Amanda and Brittany, thank you so much for sharing the insights of your department, your story. I think it's so important, in what you do day in and out. And I just, you see all these crazy reality shows today, and it's like I'd like to see, go through work and workplace and see what people go through and what they have to do to navigate the systems, the workers themselves, and then trying to make them connections and try not to get all emotionally attached, right, and having it work out. But I do want to say thank you. I really appreciate you being here. Also, be sure to check out other episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can subscribe, and you'll never miss out on any updates. So I do want to say thank you to everyone that listens to this and gets back to us. And again, this was really great of you too. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.